Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tomeo.
Good Tuesday morning on the September 2nd. Vanessa Denha-Garmo filling in for my dear sister in Christ, Teresa Tomeo, this morning, who celebrated a birthday yesterday. So big happy birthday to Teresa Tomeo. My mom also celebrated her birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Saria. My mom, Saria Denha, celebrating her birthday yesterday, along with Teresa Tomeo. And today, my cousin's birthday, Rhonda Barno Faduhi, celebrates a birthday today. So happy birthday to everyone celebrating birthdays this coming off of Labor Day weekend. And I hope everyone had a very blessed Labor Day weekend. My husband and I attended Mass at a very old church built in 1840. It's called the Little White Chapel. It was so cute. It fits like 50 people, and it was jam-packed in there, standing room only. It was just a wonderful way to start the Labor Day yesterday in Mass. We have two guests joining us here today on Catholic Connection. Dr. Michael New will be joining us, returning guest, an assistant professor of social research at the Bush School of Business at the Catholic University of America. He wrote an article on pro-lifers file formal complaint against late-term abortion doctors. So we'll talk with Michael New about that here today on Catholic Connection. And also, the Dominican Friars of the province of St. Joseph invite Catholics from across the country to a full day of prayer, preaching Eucharistic adoration and devotion to Our Lady at the 3rd Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage on Saturday, September 7th, at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. So we're going to go ahead and play a clip about that. Go ahead. Let's play that.
Our Lady entrusted the Rosary to the Dominican order to help shine the light of Jesus Christ in the world. The Blessed Virgin Mary instructed St. Dominic and his band of friars to preach her Rosary as a way to lead many souls to Christ. We have continued to faithfully preach the Rosary for over 800 years. This past September, the Dominican Friars of the province of St. Joseph brought together thousands of pilgrims from around the country for the 2nd National Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage in Washington, D.C., and the Rosary was preached and prayed with great devotion. The day was full of many graces, and we believe it's the beginning of a wider renewal in devotion to the Rosary led by the Dominican Friars. So we invite you to join us again this year on September 27th, 2025 at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C., as we gather together with Christ and Our Lady for the 2025 Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage.
So Father Joseph Anthony Kress will be joining us here today to talk about the thousands to gather at the National Shrine for the 3rd Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage. It's 9-month novena to culminate in the Dominican Rosary Pilgrimages in September. So we'll be talking with him about that today and the importance of praying the Rosary and how we make that part of our daily prayer life. I often pray the Rosary, try to pray it daily, and dedicate the Rosary to a particular person or an issue. Sometimes I'll pray a decade for a particular issue or a person. Sometimes I'll dedicate just one of the Rosary beads to somebody if I have a lot of things I want to pray for that day or being called to pray for that day. So we'll be talking with him, Father, today about the National Shrine for the 3rd Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage and what this means to all of us as Catholics and how we can engage in praying this as well. Again, I'm Vanessa Denha-Garmo filling in for my dear sister in Christ, Teresa Tomeo, this morning, who celebrated a birthday yesterday. I'm the host of Epiphany on the EWTN affiliate Ave Maria Radio in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and happy to be with all of you here today. And now, as we approach about 5 minutes past the hour here on Catholic Connection, it is time for the news on EWTN. Unsettled weather across portions of the Mid-South, Tennessee Valley, from Florida to southern Texas, with locally heavy rain and isolated flash flooding possible. A strong cold front will bring a notably colder air mass into the north central U.S. for the next few days. Hot weather remains across the western U.S., with the Pacific Northwest carrying the potential for record-breaking high temperatures. Deep moisture pooled along a stalled frontal boundary stretching from Florida to southern Texas will be the focus for additional scattered showers and thunderstorms through the midweek. Shower and thunderstorms activity will be especially prevalent from southern Florida peninsula as waves of low pressure develop nearby along the front. Given the highly moisture in place, any shower or storm will be capable of producing downpours, some of which could lead to very localized flash flooding. The front stage far enough south on Wednesday and Thursday to allow drier air to work into Texas and much of the Gulf Coast. Pope Leo XIV asked Augustinians to promote unity throughout the church and the world. Pope Leo celebrates Holy Mass at the Church of St. Augustine in Rome for the opening of the general chapter of the Augustinian order, urging his brothers and sisters to pray for the gift of listening, being humble, and promoting unity. This from Vatican News. Pope Leo XIV began his homily for the Mass for the inauguration of the general chapter of the Augustinians by inviting those present to ask the Holy Spirit for his guidance in their work. The Holy Spirit speaks today as the past, the Pope said, emphasizing the importance for the atmosphere of the chapter in harmony with centuries-long tradition of the Church to be an atmosphere of listening to God and to others. He invited those taking part in the chapter to live these days, therefore, in sincere effort to communicate and to understand as a generous response to the great and unique gift of life and grace, and that the Father of Heaven gives you by summoning you here, you specifically for the good of all. Pope Leo went to emphasize the importance of humility, citing St. Augustine, who saw in the municipality of voices an invitation to us to make ourselves small in the face of the freedom of inscrutability of God's action. Instead of imagining that they have all the answers, he invited them to welcome with faith that which the Lord inspires. Summer recess is all over for members of Congress, Rory O'Neill reports.
Congress took its August recess early to avoid discussing the Epstein files, but the issue will be front and center this week when some of the sex predators' victims hold a press conference on Capitol Hill. A bipartisan group of lawmakers is trying to force the White House to release all the Epstein files. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking for the House and Senate to pass a continuing resolution that would avoid a government shutdown when the fiscal year comes to a close at the end of the month. I'm Rory O'Neill.
And here's more from Rory O'Neill on how some of the victims of the sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein will be testifying before a congressional committee today. Here's more from Rory.
The women will speak to a private meeting of the House Oversight Committee on how they were abused by both Jeffrey Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The testimony comes on the eve of their press conference on Capitol Hill, which is being organized by a bipartisan group of lawmakers who want the Epstein files made public. Chairman James Comer also sent a letter to the Treasury Secretary asking for relevant suspicious activity reports that could help the committee's oversight of sex trafficking enforcement. I'm Rory O'Neill.
There's no ruling from a federal judge on whether a Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook can stay in the job while her lawsuit against President Trump plays out in court. Brian Shook has more.
A hearing was held Friday on Cook's challenge to her firing, which Trump said is based on allegations of mortgage fraud. Cook's lawyers have argued Trump doesn't have the authority to remove her. They also call the allegations a smear campaign. The judge is asking both sides to file additional briefs by Tuesday. I'm Brian Shook.
And with a technology update and roundup, here's Mark Mayfield.
Google is being warned by the Federal Trade Commission about playing politics. FTC Chair Andrew Ferguson sent a letter to Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai with reported concerns that Gmail's spam filters routinely block Republican-sent messages from reaching consumers, but do not block similar messages sent by Democrats. Google says its spam filter criteria is applied equally to all senders, regardless of political ideology. NVIDIA is revealing that 40% of its second quarter revenue came from just 2 customers, but it's not revealing who those 2 customers are. In its SEC filing, NVIDIA says the customers are all direct customers. These are companies that buy chips directly from NVIDIA. TechCrunch reports this means the mystery customers are not large cloud providers such as Microsoft, Amazon, or Google. Those companies are indirect customers who buy chips from the direct customers. And Bloomberg reports that OpenAI is planning a major Stargate expansion in India. Tech Report, I'm Mark Mayfield.
Meanwhile, the mayor of Chicago is telling ICE agents to chill. Roy O'Neill has that story.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson sounding defiant at a Labor Day rally, saying that no federal troops and no militarized force would be welcomed in the city of Chicago. The mayor's rhetoric came as Chicago reported a violent holiday weekend. Police say at least 54 people were shot, including 7 who died. Trump administration officials have said an ICE blitz to combat crime is set to take place in Chicago in the coming days. I'm Rory O'Neill.
The 3-day holiday is over, and it's time to get back to work. But it's not easy. Often it's hard for many people. Bree Tennis has that story.
It's difficult getting back to the work thing after a 3-day break. Psychologists say it's normal for you to harbor a bit of dread at the email stacking up or the pile of papers on your desk. The good people of Indeed say pace yourself because one missed day can actually put you about 3 days behind in your daily tasks. But if the feeling of dread on the job continues, they say job applications surge after a 3-day holiday. I'm Bree Tennis.
Stocks closed lower on inflation data. Wall Street closed lower to end last week. Sarah Lee Kessler has that story.
Stocks fell as investors took profits ahead of the long holiday weekend. Tech shares extended their recent losses as new inflation data weighed on the broader market. Despite Friday's losses, the 3 major indexes are closing out August with solid gains. At the closing bell, the Dow lost 92 points, closing at 45,544. The S&P 500 fell 41 points to 6,460, and the Nasdaq dropped 249 points to 21,455. With Market Watch, I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
Celebrating an American take on Chinese food. We're celebrating a national day that may send you on a restaurant mission. Bree Tennis has that story.
It's safe to say no one would go into a restaurant and order a plate of mixed-up scraps, but today you should, as it's National Chop Suey Day, and that's the literal translation. It's a plate of meat and veggies in a light sauce that once dominated American menus in the 20s, but it's hard to find now, and you won't find it in China because the dish is American. So grab a fork, not chopsticks. I'm Bree Tennis.
We're approaching 13 minutes past the hour here on Catholic Connection, and Vanessa Denha-Garmo filling in for Teresa Tomeo. When we come back, we'll be talking with Michael New. Dr. New is an assistant professor of social research at the Bush School of Business at the Catholic University of Michigan. He penned an article last week. The pro-life group Survivors of Abortion Holocaust filed a formal complaint with the Washington, D.C. Department of Public Health against D.C. late-term abortionist doctor there performing late-term abortions at the Washington Clinic, which is located near the George Washington University campus. It was outside his facility that 2 local pro-life activists recovered the remains of 5 fully formed aborted children. We'll talk with Michael New about that after the break. Don't go away. And we're back here on Catholic Connection. Vanessa Denha-Garmo here filling for Teresa Tomeo. And joining us as returning guest, Michael New, assistant professor at social research at the Bush School of Business, Catholic University of America. And he's talking with us about pro-lifers file formal complaint against late-term abortionists. Michael, always a pleasure to talk with you here. Give us an update on what's going on.
Yeah, there's actually a very exciting update. I'm very pleased to have a chance to share this with your listeners. As I mentioned in the article, last couple weeks ago, a pro-life group filed a formal complaint against late-term abortion doctor Cesar Santangelo. There's evidence that he needs a personal assistant to get around. His arm is in a cast. So there's reason to believe that he's not actually performing these late-term abortions. And another, health professional who's not a doctor is likely doing so. Well, there's an exciting update. And a press release just came out from survivors of the abortion Holocaust. And this late-term abortion facility has halted doing abortion. So for the time being, they have stopped doing abortion. That's a nice win. If you go to the YouTube page for survivors of the abortion Holocaust, they have the phone interviews taped. This center just refers people to the National Abortion Federation. They say they think they may restart in late September, but they are not taking any appointments for any point in time right now. So that's a nice win for pro-lifers.
And what are the next steps? What happens now? I mean, is it, what are we waiting for?
Well, we don't really know exactly what's happening. We don't know if this is voluntary. We don't know if the D.C. Board of Public Health did involve themselves in some way. There are people who live in D.C. There is going to be kind of a prayer vigil next week, which if you go to my Twitter feed, at Michael_J_new, I will go ahead and circulate that. So, we just have to wait and see at this point. Again, the prayer vigil will be Tuesday, September 9th at 5 p.m. at the office of the Chief Medical Examiner in D.C. That's in Southwest D.C. But right now we're just waiting and seeing. We have people who pray outside that facility. They've not seen Santangelo for weeks. We just have to do surveillance, and we hope this place is shut down for good.
Okay, so Michael, I'm going to get back to the prayer vigil, but really quickly, how does what's happening now, tie in to the survivors of the abortion Holocaust filing a formal complaint? Is this a result of that?
We hope so. I mean, the survivors did a week's worth of pro-life activism in D.C. to try to get this facility shut down. They had people come from all over the country. They did prayer vigils. They did surveillance. They did some research. And they have, very good video evidence, that, again, Santangelo does not look like he's in good health. He literally needs, a personal assistant to get around. One of his arms is in a cast. It's just not feasible for this man to do any kind of medical work with his arm in a cast.
Yeah.
So we've been generating some publicity about this. We did file the formal complaint. We did a press conference outside the D.C. Board of Public Health a couple of weeks ago. They don't necessarily communicate with us or tell us, why they did what they did. They keep a lot of these things confidential. So we don't know whether Santangelo was just feeling the heat and has stopped, just hopefully let the publicity subside, or the D.C. Board of Public Health has intervened in some way and it's need to stop doing what you're doing until we conduct a full investigation. We don't know. Again, the only thing we can do at this point is, prayer, some more oversight. We'll obviously try to learn information that we can get. But again, right now it's kind of limited to keeping an eye on things, praying, doing this prayer vigil, and we will certainly keep you and your listeners posted.
Mm-hmm. Why is prayer vigils like that so important in the pro-life movement?
Prayer is always important. I mean, God can move mountains, so I think that prayer is certainly just important. It just brings certainly God can certainly intervene in certain ways, and He can spiritually enlighten folks, and just the things we've been doing outside this facility just draw attention to it. Most people don't know there is a late-term abortion facility near the George Washington University campus in Washington, D.C. Most people oppose late-term abortions. I mean, Santangelo aborts healthy babies. There's a lot of complaints against him. But people don't know this. The media just doesn't cover this issue the way it should. It's just sort of papered over. So when you pray, the press conference we did got some attention. The prayer vigils get attention. That's not the only reason to do it, but media coverage, public scrutiny, these are powerful tools. And prayer vigils do help make that happen.
So, in this particular facility, too, as you wrote about, Michael, it was outside his facility that 2 local pro-life activists recovered the remains of 5 fully formed aborted children. And these are things that don't go widely reported by mainstream media. Can you kind of elaborate on this, and why is it so significant to mention this?
Yeah, sure. That there were 2 local pro-life activists, Lauren Handy and Teresa McCovenick, were doing sidewalk counseling outside this late-term facility, and a waste disposal truck pulled up, and they talked to the driver, and he agreed to give them one of the containers, and they took it to their apartments, and they opened it up, and they saw 150 babies that were aborted that were relatively early in gestation, and 5 pretty much fully formed aborted children. And they took pictures, had a professional photographer. They had a priest come in and do a blessing, and they did arrange for a burial of the 150. When it comes to the 5, we want an investigation. I mean, based on a look, it's conceivable they could be victims of partial birth abortions, which are illegal under federal law. They could be victims of infanticide, which is also illegal. So we've wanted the D.C. Police to do a proper investigation. They do have the remains of these children. They haven't done so yet, which is a source of great aggravation to us. But yeah, they did get the remains of these children. Those that were early in gestation did get a proper burial with a Catholic priest. Those that were later in gestation were turned over to the police. But as far as we know, there's been no formal investigation.
What are the chances of a formal investigation and even charges being brought against them?
That I don't know. I mean, the local police, frankly, I don't think is prioritizing this. We're hoping for some federal oversight, that obviously the federal government has a lot of control over what happens in D.C. We'd love to have some hearings on this. Congressman Chip Roy has taken an interest in some of our issues. He did a good hearing on the FACE Act. We think that the federal government could possibly intervene. It's been, a couple of years. We haven't seen much happening. We've done press conferences, we've done prayer vigils. D.C. city government is run by Democrats who support legal abortion. So I think they cover up for Santangelo, but that's not our only option. I mean, we could hope that the federal government could intervene. Federal law enforcement could do their own investigation. That's what kind of we're hoping for right now.
And Michael, what kind of influence can the general public have on these cases and these stories?
I mean, sure. I mean, the general public can certainly pray. People, things can be circulated on social media. I will be on Twitter very shortly. My handle is @Michael_J_new. Just getting greater public awareness helps. If congressmen can be called to do a proper investigation, public pressure can work. There are a lot of pro-life congressmen. They're sympathetic to what we do, but their time is limited, and they can't prioritize everything. So, phone calls to congressmen, even, contacting, the Department of Health and Human Services, wouldn't be a bad idea. Public pressure, public scrutiny can do some good things here.
Michael New, we have less than a minute left with you here on Catholic Connection. What else do you want to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Again, just if you're in the D.C. area, there's a prayer vigil Tuesday, September 9th, in front of the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, that's Southwest D.C. We're going to keep an eye on this late-term abortion facility. We hope they stay shut down forever. Please, I want your listeners to pray for local pro-life activists. We're working very hard to build a culture of life in a tough city, and we will be sure to keep you all posted.
Michael New, thank you so much for being with us here on Catholic Connection.
Thank you for having me.
He is the Assistant Professor of Social Research at the Bush School of Business at the Catholic University of America here with us. And joining us after the break, we'll be talking with Father Joseph Anthony Kress, and we're talking about the 3rd annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage. The Dominican Friars of the province of St. Joseph invite Catholics from across the country to a full day of prayer, preaching, Eucharistic adoration, and devotion to Our Lady at the 3rd annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage on Saturday, September 27th, at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception of Washington, D.C. And like I said, we're all invited to this. So thousands of Catholics from across the country are expected to attend the pilgrimage. And we'll be talking with Father about that after the break. Stay with us, everyone. Don't go away. The Dominican Friars of the province of St. Joseph invite Catholics from across the country to a full day of prayer, preaching, Eucharistic adoration, and devotion to Our Lady, the 3rd annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage coming up on September 27th. To talk with us about that and so much more is our next guest, Father Joseph Anthony Kress. Father Joseph Anthony, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Yeah, good morning. It's fantastic to join you and talk a little bit about our event coming up, but also to talk about devotion to Our Lady, the Rosary, all of these things. So I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to chat a little bit.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to talk about is Mother Mary. So I'm very happy to have this conversation, Father Joseph Anthony. So let's talk about, how did this annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage come about? And now we're into the third annual one, but how did it come to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a few years ago, one of our friars was in prayer, and I really just was inspired to gather the people of God together and publicly pray the Rosary. And through that inspiration, it took the form of connecting with the Basilica Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, Washington, D.C., and then really kind of forming together this full day's pilgrimage where we have Catholics from all over the country coming to Washington, D.C., placing ourselves in the presence of our Lord and underneath the protection and intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So it takes the form of a full day event, beginning in the morning, going all the way into the evening. But we have kind of really, truly inspired by our Dominican charism of preaching for the salvation of souls. We have conferences on the Rosary, leading people into deeper union with Jesus in prayer and the sacraments, including confession, the Mass, and adoration. And then having the opportunity to pray the Rosary together in a very public way, unifying our prayers together in a singular voice. And then we have some fun as well. We have a concert by the Hillbilly Thomas in the evening to kind of close out the event. So, yeah, it was a beautiful moment of inspiration and kind of drawing our Dominican life together and putting it in an invitational way for others to join in with that.
So, Father, what's been the feedback you've received the last couple of years? Now you're heading into the third annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage from the people who have attended.
Yeah, we've been very blessed. There's been a lot of positive feedback. Just the people who, were kind of interested in it and wanting to dip their toes in the water, to people that are very committed and even, made the sacrifices to. Some people are walking to the pilgrimage from their, home locations or things like that. I would say the thing that kind of has surprised me enough, it's quite normal to experience people who are supportive and say, that's a great idea, we want to do that.
Sure.
But to see the amount of people who are truly making sacrifices to make this pilgrimage a part and a central part of their kind of annual, yearly prayer life. Traveling for hours with their own children and their families, to, like I said, some people walking to it. I've been really edified by the people of God who are making sacrifices to spend the day in prayer, in devotion to Our Lady for this way.
And it truly, as you said, it's a commitment. It's part of it becomes part of their annual prayer life and something that they do on a regular basis. And how important is it for us, Father Joseph Anthony, to meet up with fellow Catholics from around the country, in prayer, for the greater good, for the glory of God, asking Mother Mary for intercessory prayer? How does this help us on our own faith journey, uniting with people from across the country?
Yeah, it's very intentional, the way that, when we were forming the event, it's very intentional that we called it a pilgrimage. I think for American Catholics, we conceive of pilgrimages as being something where you go to a far distant land, right? You go to the Holy Land, or you walk the Camino in Spain, or these types of things. But in our Catholic life, we see the entirety of our life as a pilgrim journey on this earth. And having localized pilgrimages is a part of our Catholic patrimony for generations. And so to introduce that concept on a domestic level, to say we can make pilgrimages to places even here in the United States. And so we wanted to kind of introduce that to our American Catholic experience, and then to see how people have responded and have continued to make that effort and that sacrifice to make this a true pilgrimage. And yes, it's for one day or it's for a weekend, but it is to be a pattern, for the entirety of our Christian life, is that we are on pilgrimage, but in a unique way, we do it with the Queen of Pilgrims, Our Lady, guiding us through this life.
And what does it mean to you, Father, in your own faith journey and joining people in this prayer?
I do think, I think the rosary more often than not tends to be a very private devotion. You know, we as individuals pray our rosaries in the morning with a cup of coffee, or we pray, you know, on our way to work, or these types of things that tend to be private, individualized moments. But when we come together and pray the rosary in public, we see that there's a deep sense of bond that with the Blessed Mother as our mother, that we share in this with each other as brothers and sisters in her Son, Jesus Christ. So it can open up our lives from maybe the patterns of being a private devotion to recognizing that we have a greater unity with each other as we make this devotional act.
Mm-hmm. And as we said, thousands of Catholics will gather at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception for the 3rd Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage. So, Father, how can people listening participate in this national witness of Marian devotion?
Yeah, we have a number of opportunities. For more information, you can check out rosarypilgrimage.org, where you can find all the information. If you're able to travel to Washington, D.C. on Saturday, September 27th, we would love to have you on site with us that day. It's a full day's event. It is a non-ticketed event, so it's free. You just have to show up for that. We do suggest that you RSVP or sign up. That helps us with our own planning. But if there's a reason that you cannot physically show up, whether you're dealing with some health issues or maybe the travel is too far, you're across the nation different ways, you can live stream the entire event, start to finish. So we have a live stream option available on our website as well. So those would be a few ways that you can kind of follow with the updates, but also opportunities to be with us in Washington, D.C. or join us from afar.
Father, do you expect a larger crowd? Is it growing since the inception a couple of years ago?
Yes, this is why those kind of sign-ups and RSVPs are very helpful for us. We're trending larger than what we've had the last 2 years. So we're expecting an increase of anywhere between right around 1,000 from year on year by this point. So we're expecting about 4,000 people this year.
Talk about the Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage, amazing 4,000 people. And Father, when we come back, we got to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk about your path to the priesthood and Mother Mary playing a tremendous role in fostering vocations to the priesthood, the diaconate, and religious life, and kind of get more into that and where you can share with us your story and your path to the priesthood, and maybe talk with listeners who maybe even thinking about the priesthood and Mary's influence in that vocation. So we're going to take a break here on Catholic Connection. Vanessa Dent-Hagarmo filling in for Teresa Tomeo. We'll continue with Father Joseph Anthony after the break. And we've been talking with Father Joseph Anthony Kress here today on the 3rd Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage coming up this month, at the end of this month. And Father, before we went to break, I was asking you about your own path to the priesthood and the Marian devotion influenced in the vocation of the priesthood and religious life. Can you kind of share with us a little bit about your own story?
Yeah. So I joke around and I say I've been in Catholic school since kindergarten to my priestly ordination, which isn't a joke. It's true. I've been in Catholic schools all my life. And so, the faith was something kind of relatively comfortable and around me all the time. I will say when it started thinking about the Dominicans, I was studying abroad. I went to college at Francis University, Steubenville, and I was studying our Austria program. And I helped to lead a mission trip to Lourdes while I was studying abroad. And it was truly in Lourdes that I had a deep encounter with our Blessed Mother. And, praying in the grotto of Lourdes, where she would assist and pray the rosary with St. Bernadette praying the Hail Marys, and then the Blessed Mother joining in with the Our Fathers. That I was praying the rosary in the grotto of Lourdes, and had a very deep encounter with our Blessed Mother. And that gave me a lot of consolation to pursue this Dominican vocation. And so I took a leap, and I went to a gift shop in Lourdes and bought a habit rosary. And that's still the rosary that I wear as part of my Dominican habit to this day. And so the Blessed Mother's kind of had her fingerprints all over my Dominican vocation from the very earliest of moments in that way.
Wow. And so this, and then the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate recently released a report detailing the findings of a first of its kind survey titled Impact of Mary, Mother of the Church on Ecclesial Vocations. A total of 1,019 U.S. bishops, diocesan priests, permanent deacons, deacon directors, and major superiors of men and women completed the survey, and the results show that for majority, devotion to Mary has had an impact on their vocation discernment, as well as how they live out their vocations. What was your reaction to that survey and that finding?
I mean, I would be lying to you if I said I was surprised by it. I'm not. I mean, that's what I would expect to see. And I'm not trying to downplay the findings of the survey. It's beautiful to read through that. But anybody who's trying to follow our Lord Jesus, to grow closer in union with him, and a vocation to the priesthood is a particular union with the Lord. It's a conformation, a conforming of the individual man into the humanity of Jesus Christ. And the individual who gave him that humanity was the Blessed Mother. So to think of the fact that she wouldn't be involved in assisting the conformation of these other men to her own son, that would be surprising to me.
Yeah.
And I think for any young man or that's in formation, or priest and bishop, all of us need to constantly be reminded of those realities. I mean, it's the simple and the basic things that are worth repeating again and again and again. And our priesthood truly has to be guided by the Blessed Mother so that we can imitate and be united to her Son, Jesus Christ, again and again, each and every day.
I was just thinking about Mother Mary and the devotion of Mother Mary. Now, I grew up in a Chaldean Catholic family, and many Chaldeans have devotions to Mary. In fact, I thought everybody grew up with their living room being transformed into, a devotion of Mother Mary with a statue and rosaries. I didn't realize that I got older that was not common in homes across the country. But my devotion to Mother Mary, when we speak of vocations, Father, I was just thinking when I had my daughter is when my relationship with Mother Mary grew stronger, asking her for guidance as a mother, right? And so for so many vocations, from whether you're entering religious life, the priesthood, getting married, becoming a mother or father, Mother Mary's there for each and every one of us at every stage in our lives. Can you kind of speak to that as Catholics of, why is it important for us to have this relationship with Mother Mary? Yeah, I mean, it's something where, there's always the critique or the criticism of Catholics that we worship Mary. And if you can only conceive of that term as like worshiping Mary as like making her a god, then it can be problematic. But we also understand that, there's worship that's proper to God himself, but in the real sense that we do give due honor, reverence, and in smaller ways, worship to the saints. And she who the Lord chose to be his mother, he chose us in the way that he saw most fitting to our own salvation, and that was to enter into our world as a human being. And by taking flesh in the incarnation, he did so through the Blessed Mother. And if that was the pattern that he saw most fitting for our redemption in his incarnation, then it's worth imitating. And it shouldn't surprise us if the Lord repeats himself in a real way. I mean, when we look at all of creation, the sun rises every day. There's a lot of repetition in nature. In beautiful ways, we shouldn't be shocked that there's repetition in supernature as well. So the supernatural acts of our redemption and salvation tend to mimic or be repeated in how he did it the first time around. So if he entered into this world through this woman, the Blessed Virgin Mary, then our new redemption
and our salvation will also be patterned in that very same way. And so the Blessed Mother is going to be part of our union with the Lord. She's going to have a role in our salvation and sanctification, and a major role at that as well.
We're talking about thousands to gather at the National Shrine of the Third Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage with our guest here today. Father Joseph Anthony Kress is with us, and we're talking about this. All are invited to join in this pilgrimage and our devotion to Mother Mary. And we know, Father Joseph Anthony, that the Rosary is a national call to renewal in the Church. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when speaking about our upcoming Rosary Pilgrimage on Saturday, September 27th, we are hosting it in Washington, D.C., and that is not by accident. You know, Washington, D.C. is such an important city for us as Americans, being our nation's capital, and to really be in the heart of the district in the Shrine of Our Lady, but to be kind of allowing thousands of voices cry to heaven, beseeching Our Lady for both her intercession for us, but also her protection of us as these citizens of this nation, and that our nation may be guided to be more in union with her Son. And so it is a national opportunity to turn our eyes, once again, not just as individuals in singular, isolated gazes, but as a collective, as a body of Christ here in this place, but also representing all the citizens of this nation, to turn our eyes and to turn our gaze and be directed by the Blessed Mother. I'm constantly reminded of the words of the Blessed Mother in the Gospels when she turns to the waiters at the wedding feast of Cana and says, "Do whatever he tells you." And this is that moment that we can cry to her as a unified body in our nation's capital and hear her say anew and afresh, "Do whatever he tells you," allowing Jesus to speak his words to us in this place.
And, you know, what's different about this year's pilgrimage? I mean, in addition to the fact that the church is entering a new chapter under this first American Pope, Pope Leo XIV. So,
yes, exactly.
Which is exciting. Anything else different in this year?
We're always kind of making little tweaks and adjustments and things to do better. One of the things is that we're trying to emphasize more of our Spanish language track. So we have both an English language and Spanish language track of preaching that's available. So for anybody who feels more comfortable with the Spanish language, we have conferences and sacraments available for them as well. So that's one of the things that we're trying to kind of strengthen for this year's pilgrimage as well. And then you'll see other aspects that we've seen in years past. We have a concert by the Hillbilly Thomas, which is a group, a bluegrass band of Dominican friars who will be playing the evening, kind of closing out the event. And then this year, we were just able to receive the shipment of it, but we have a new statue of Our Lady of the Rosary. So a newly commissioned statue of Our Lady of the Rosary that we will bless and carry in procession throughout the pilgrimage itself. So those are a few of the elements that we've continued to build and refine over the years. But we're always trying to build the pilgrimage with new and different aspects each year.
So a couple more questions for you here, Father. What is the Rosary Confraternity?
Oh, thank you for asking about that. That's a unique thing. It's an association of the faithful and the people of God surrounding a particular action. And this action for the confraternity is praying the Rosary. Now, it's a confraternity that has existed for over 500 years, but has kind of lost familiarity in our present day. So we're trying to reinvigorate the confraternity and help people to understand and be aware of it. But it's a very, very beautiful and simple thing. It is this, that the members of the confraternity participate and share in the graces that each other member receives. And so as the thousands of those that join the confraternity gather together, they're praying the Rosary, they then begin to participate and share in each other's graces that are received. So it's a very powerful association and it can help strengthen the church in that way. But uniquely, there's only two really requirements to join the confraternity. The first is that you sign up for it, you register for it. And the second is that you pray 15 decades a week, 15 decades of the Rosary a week. And in that way, we join together in this spiritual activity and sharing with the graces with each other. You don't have to attend meetings. You don't have to elect any officers or pay annual dues. You just sign up and pray 15 decades a week and have this abundance of graces poured into your life.
Amen. Father Joseph Anthony, we have about a minute left with you here on Catholic Connection. What else do you want to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Yeah, I would just invite all of our listeners to check out our website, rosarypilgrimage.org. For more information on our Rosary Pilgrimage, you'll find links for the sign-up and the RSVP if you're able to make it. You'll also find links for the live stream if you're unable to physically get to Washington, D.C. But I just want to encourage all of our listeners to check that out, to consider praying or joining us in Washington, D.C. for that day. But just know that we're praying for you, and please pray the Rosary for us. Our Lady's Rosary is such a beautiful prayer and powerful weapon that if you haven't grabbed your Rosary or prayed it recently, grab those beads today and do that. And if you do it every day, then continue to grab that, maybe say a few extra decades for the pilgrimage today. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Amen. We'll definitely keep you in prayer. And Father Joseph Anthony Kress, thank you so much for being with us here on Catholic Connection.
Thank you.
God bless you and all that you do. Again, the Dominican Friars of the province of St. Joseph invite all Catholics from across the country to a full day of prayer, preaching, Eucharistic adoration, and devotion to Our Lady at the 3rd Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage happening Saturday, September 27th at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. Stay with us, everyone. We're going to wrap up this hour and talk about who's coming up and the EWTN Radio Extra. We'll be right back after this. Thanks to both of our guests for joining us here on Catholic Connection this morning on this Tuesday, September 2nd. Dr. Michael New, an assistant professor of social research at the Bush School of Business at the Catholic University of America, talking with us about pro-lifers file formal complaint against late-term abortionists. And thank you to Father Joseph Anthony Kress being with us here today, talking with us about the 3rd Annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage coming up. We're all invited at the end of this month. We'll put up all that information up on the website. You can find out that in the archives section of Catholic Connection and get the links and information there as well, so you can sign up for the pilgrimage and pray the Rosary. All of us gathering together, thousands of Catholics across the country gathering in Washington. Coming up in EWTN Radio Extra, we have Kelly Salomon will be with us, Vice President of the Newman Guide Programs from the Cardinal Newman Society, and we'll be discussing upcoming Newman Guide Virtual College Fair, and they just announced the details, so she'll give us some background on that. And in my coach's commentary, I am a leadership development coach and life coach and a strength coach and team building coach, and I do communication audits with epiphanycommunications.com. And I'm going to be talking about, as the school year starts, as a mom of a first-time college student, I'm sharing my coach's commentary tied to our natural gifts as kids figure out their career paths and what to study in college. So we'll be talking about that and my coach's commentary in the EWTN Radio Extra. Don't go away.
Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tomeo.
Good Tuesday morning. Vanessa Denha-Garmo filling in for my dear sister in Christ this morning, Teresa Tomeo, celebrating a birthday yesterday. So big happy birthday to Teresa Tomeo. Wishing her a very blessed birthday and blessed year. Also a happy birthday. She shares a birthday with my mom. Saria celebrated her birthday yesterday, and my cousin Rhonda celebrating a birthday today. So happy birthday to everybody celebrating birthdays. May you have a blessed birthday. We'll be talking with Kelly Salomon here today on Catholic Connection. Now, I did not plan this, so I wrote my coach's commentary on kids going back to school, especially college students trying to figure out their career path. As a leadership development coach and a strengths coach, I use a lot of tools in my work, and I also do career coaching for clients. And so I was thinking, as a first-time mom of a college student, this is my first time I've had a college student, a daughter going to college. First day was today, actually. And so I wanted to talk about, how we have these God-given talents that we're blessed with that help us figure out where our career should go. We all have natural talents, and we're blessed with these natural talents by God. Some people are, very strong in communications. Other people are strong in analytical or business or whatever it may be. And one of the tools I use is the Clifton Strengths Finder as a coach to help my clients figure out where their natural talents are. And we use this in career development, leadership development. I had my daughter take this when she was 14. I'll probably have her retake it when she's 24, just to do a little bit of a comparison. It won't change much. When you retake it, it may change a little bit, but your top 10 strengths are pretty much in the top 10. They may move around, like number 1 may be number 4. And what's in your weaker points, your bottom 10, doesn't mean you can't be good at a career path. It just means you're going to go at it in a different way. And so in my coach's commentary today, I'm going to be talking about our natural talents and how that helps us in our career development, especially for college students trying to figure out what path they're on. Now, I wrote that not realizing that our guest for this hour is Kelly Newman from the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair from the Cardinal Newman Society. So that is a God incidence, right? A little God wink to us. It's wonderful how that kind of comes together. I was talking about that with Richard in our break, is that I didn't plan this. I wrote my coach's commentary on our career paths and our natural talents, and then realizing that coming up this hour will be Kelly Newman talking with us about the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair. And planning is so important. It's another thing that I talk with clients about all the time, is that planning our goals. Goals without a plan are really just a dream. We got to have a strategic plan. How are we going to get there? And that's some of the things I go through with clients all the time, whether we're talking about career development or leadership development or building teams within an organization. It's, where do we want to go? What's our end game for this particular goal? Is it a goal in 6 months, a goal in a year, a goal of 5 years? And we all should have goals throughout our whole life. And then when we set a goal, we use the SMART acronym. Are we specific, measurable, achievable, realistic? Can we do it in a timely way? So we use the SMART acronym. And so we create a plan based on that SMART acronym. That could be another coach's commentary, but kind of wanted to give you an overview. So as you set your career path, the basis of all the coaching I do always starts with these assessments that I do. It's one of the tools I do. So it's the basis of, what are your natural talents? So that's going to be talking about in coach's commentary here today on Catholic Connection. But as we approach 5 minutes past the hour, it's now time for the news on EWTN. Unsettled weather across portions of the Mid-South Tennessee Valley and from Florida to southern Texas, with locally heavy rain and isolated flash flooding possible. Strong cold front will bring a notable colder air mass into north central U.S. in the next few days. Hot weather remains across the western part of the U.S., with the Pacific Northwest carrying the potential for record-breaking high temperatures. Deep moisture pooled along a stalled frontal boundary stretching from Florida to southern Texas will be the focus focus for additional scattered showers and thunderstorms through midweek. Shower and thunderstorm activity will be especially prevalent from southern Florida peninsula as waves of low pressure develop nearby along the front. Given the highly moisture in the place, any shower and storm will be capable of producing downpours, some of which could lead to very localized flash flooding. The front sags for far enough south on Wednesday and Thursday to allow drier air to work into Texas and much of the Gulf Coast. Pope Leo XIV asks Augustinians to promote a unity through the church and the world. Pope Leo XIV celebrates Holy Mass at the Church of St. Augustine in Rome for the opening of the general chapter of the Augustinian order, urging the brothers and sisters to pray for the gift of listening, being humble, and promoting unity. This from Vatican News. Pope Leo XIV began his homily for the Mass for the inauguration of the general chapter of the Augustinians by inviting those present to ask the Holy Spirit for his guidance in their work. The Holy Spirit speaks today as in the past, said the Pope, emphasizing the importance for the atmosphere of the chapter and harmony with centuries of long tradition of the Church to be an atmosphere of listening to God and to others. He invited those taking part in the chapter to live these days, therefore, in a sincere effort to communicate and to understand, as generous response to the great and unique gift of light and grace that the Father of Heaven gives us by summoning us here, specifically for the good of all. Pope Leo went on to emphasize the importance of humility, citing St. Augustine, who saw in the municipality of voices as invitation to us to make ourselves small in the face of freedom, of the inscrutability of God's action. Instead of imagining that we all have the answers, he invited them to welcome with faith that which the Lord inspires in order to allow themselves to be taught and reminded by the Spirit of the words of Christ. Meanwhile, summer recess is all over for members of Congress. Rory O'Neill reports.
Congress took its August recess early to avoid discussing the Epstein files, but the issue will be front and center this week when some of the sex predators' victims hold a press conference on Capitol Hill. A bipartisan group of lawmakers is trying to force the White House to release all the Epstein files. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking for the House and Senate to pass a continuing resolution that would avoid a government shutdown when the fiscal year comes to a close at the end of the month. I'm Rory O'Neill.
And here's more from Rory O'Neill on how some of the victims of the sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein will be testifying before a congressional committee today. Here's more from Rory.
The women will speak to a private meeting of the House Oversight Committee on how they were abused by both Jeffrey Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The testimony comes on the eve of their press conference on Capitol Hill, which is being organized by a bipartisan group of lawmakers who want the Epstein files made public. Chairman James Comer also sent a letter to the Treasury Secretary asking for relevant suspicious activity reports that could help the committee's oversight of sex trafficking enforcement. I'm Rory O'Neill.
There's no ruling from a federal judge on whether Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook could stay on the job while her lawsuit against President Trump plays out in court. Brian Shook has more.
A hearing was held Friday on Cook's challenge to her firing, which Trump said is based on allegations of mortgage fraud. Cook's lawyers have argued Trump doesn't have the authority to remove her. They also call the allegations a smear campaign. The judge is asking both sides to file additional briefs by Tuesday. I'm Brian Shook.
It's a tech roundup. Here's Mark Mayfield with the latest technology news.
Google is being warned by the Federal Trade Commission about playing politics. FTC Chair Andrew Ferguson sent a letter to Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai with reported concerns that Gmail's spam filters routinely block Republican-sent messages from reaching consumers, but do not block similar messages sent by Democrats. Google says its spam filter criteria is applied equally to all senders, regardless of political ideology. NVIDIA is revealing that 40% of its second quarter revenue came from just 2 customers, but it's not revealing who those 2 customers are. In its SEC filing, NVIDIA says the customers are all direct customers. These are companies that buy chips directly from NVIDIA. TechCrunch reports this means the mystery customers are not large cloud providers such as Microsoft, Amazon, or Google. Those companies are indirect customers who buy chips from the direct customers. And Bloomberg reports that OpenAI is planning a major Stargate expansion in India. Tech Report, I'm Mark Mayfield.
The mayor of Chicago is telling ICE agents to chill. Rory O'Neill has more.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson sounding defiant at a Labor Day rally, saying that no federal troops and no militarized force would be welcomed in the city of Chicago. The mayor's rhetoric came as Chicago reported a violent holiday weekend. Police say at least 54 people were shot, including 7 who died. Trump administration officials have said an ICE blitz to combat crime is set to take place in Chicago in the coming days. I'm Rory O'Neill.
It's not easy getting back to work after a long holiday. The 3-day holiday is over, and it's time to get back to work. And it's hard for many people. Bree Tennis has that story.
It's difficult getting back to the work thing after a 3-day break. Psychologists say it's normal for you to harbor a bit of dread at the email stacking up or the pile of papers on your desk. The good people of Indeed say pace yourself because one missed day can actually put you about 3 days behind in your daily tasks. But if the feeling of dread on the job continues, they say job applications surge after a 3-day holiday. I'm Bree Tennis.
Wall Street closed lower to end last week. Sarah Lee Kessler has that story.
Stocks fell as investors took profits ahead of the long holiday weekend. Tech shares extended their recent losses as new inflation data weighed on the broader market. Despite Friday's losses, the 3 major indexes are closing out August with solid gains. At the closing bell, the Dow lost 92 points, closing at 45,544. The S&P 500 fell 41 points to 6,460, and the Nasdaq dropped 249 points to 21,455. With Market Watch, I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
Chop Suey Day, celebrating an American take on Chinese food. We're celebrating a national day that may send you on a restaurant mission. Bree Tennis has more.
It's safe to say no one would go into a restaurant and order a plate of mixed up scraps, but today you should, as it's National Chop Suey Day, and that's the literal translation. It's a plate of meat and veggies and a light sauce that once dominated American menus in the 20s, but it's hard to find now, and you won't find it in China because the dish is American. So grab a fork, not chopsticks. I'm Bree Tennis.
And I'm Vanessa Denha-Garmo, filling in for Teresa Tomeo here this morning on Catholic Connection, EWTN Radio Extra. Coming up this hour, Kelly Salomon will be with us. She's the vice president of the Newman Guide Programs and the Cardinal Newman Society. We'll be talking with her after my coach's commentary on the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair that's coming up. And this ties into my coach's commentary, although I did not plan it that way. It's definitely a God incident. And we're talking about back to school. Strengths and the sacred call. What is the Lord calling you to do? What gifts has He given you? What have you been blessed with? And this is one of the tools I use in my coaching. In fact, is the basis of my coaching. All my clients that I work with take the strengths assessment, the Clifton Strengths Assessment, and it gives us a basis of what their top talents are. And we use those to figure out where their career paths are going, whether I'm doing career coaching or leadership development coaching and team building coaching. So I'll be talking about that and coach's commentary as the kids head back to school. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this. School districts across America, Tuesday after Labor Day is the official start of the school year. Although many private and Catholic schools and colleges start school before Labor Day, as a mother of a first-time college student, this is the first time my daughter's in college. Today was her first day of college, praying for her and all these new college students. I thought I'd focus my coach's commentary today on back to school, strengths and our sacred call. And as a leadership development coach and career coach, I focus a lot on what people's natural talents are. In fact, it's the basis of my coaching. So I was thinking my coach's commentary could tie into kids going back to school. So, friends, one of the most beautiful truths of our faith is that God created each of us intentionally, right? With purpose, with love, and with unique design. Psalms 139 tells us, "You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." That's not just poetic language, that's divine architecture. And one of my favorite quotes comes from St. Catherine of Siena, where she says, "Be who God intended you to be, and you will set the world on fire." And that's what I love doing with my clients, is helping them figure out their purpose, especially when I get to do Catholic leadership coaching or Catholic career coaching, where I bring the faith into the coaching session, helping my clients figure out where the Lord is leading them. What is his will for you? What talents has he blessed you with? And we all have these natural talents, all of us. And yet, how often do we struggle to understand what we're made for? We ask the Lord, "What do you want from me?" Or "What's my calling?" Sometimes we think it has to be something grand or dramatic, but what if the answer is already woven into the fabric of who we are? And there's great ways to figure this out. I've read some really good books over the years on figuring out your career path. One of the books I read early on in college was "I'd Do Anything Only If I Knew What It Was." And in that reading of that book, I really kind of discovered that I love journalism. I am a communications person. This is long before I took my strengths assessment and knew that communication was my number 2 talent. But my top talents really tie into the work that I personally do. I love to learn. I love to communicate. I love to take in data and information. I'm very individualistic. I like to get to know people. I'm very intellectual as my top talent, where I like to take a deep dive into issues. And so it kind of really ties into the work that I do as a coach and a communications consultant. And they said, I'm naturally good at this. I went into journalism. I went into communications. I got my bachelor's in journalism, my master's in communication. And this ties into my natural talents. And this is before I even knew what my natural talents were. I was just naturally drawn into this. So the Lord has designed us, has created us with these natural talents, leading us into our vocations. Now, that's where tools like the Gallup Strengths Finder come into play. Now, I'm not saying it replaces prayer or spiritual direction. Of course not. It's far from it. But it can be a powerful companion to the journey of discernment, because when you begin to understand your top strengths, whether it's strategic, empathy, communication, or discipline, you're not just learning about your personality, you're uncovering the fingerprints of God on your soul. He designed you this way. He designed me this way. And that's what's so powerful. I truly believe if everybody understood their natural talents and their charisms, there would be no identity crisis. But so many people are struggling to figure out who they are because they don't know themselves as the likeness, created in the likeness and image of God. They don't know God. We have to know God first. And that's another book I'm working on, by the way, is I'm working on a book on identity as a coach. The strengths aren't random. They're clues. They're invitations. They're the way God has wired you to serve, to love. And when you start to see them through the lens of faith, something shifts. You stop striving to be someone else and you start stewarding who you really are. It's so enlightening. It's truly an epiphany moment when you figure out, wow, these are the gifts God gave me. This is how he created me to be. This is where my path is. You know those people growing up that always knew they wanted to be a doctor? Growing up, I'm like, God, that's so awesome that you know exactly what you want to do. I changed my major like 4 or 5 times, but everything I picked was in the communication realm, writing, communication. I was going to do marketing because I thought it'd be kind of fun to write commercials. And then I realized I didn't want to do any of the math. So I went into journalism. I've seen in coaching conversations and ministry teams and nonprofit leaders who finally realize, oh, this is why I keep getting asked to lead. This is why I feel drained in certain roles and alive in others. It's not pride, it's clarity. And it's clarity in our gifts. I don't like numbers. I'm not very strong and analytical. And there's other people that are good at that. That's why we team up partner with people who have strengths that we don't have. right? And vice versa. This is why I help clients figure out how to build teams together, because it's based on different talents and different strengths. And how do you use your particular talents and strengths to lead a team? There are certain things that all leaders need to do, but you're also bringing your own uniqueness to your leadership, your own talents. You're creating your own leadership style. So if you've never taken the Gallup assessment, I encourage you to consider that. And I'm not, it's not a self-help exercise, but a prayerful exploration. That's why I love Called and Gifted. If you don't know what your charisms are, I really encourage you to figure that out. I'm a trained and Called and Gifted facilitator. I'm trained as a Gallup strengths coach. I think it's so important we understand how God has blessed each and every one of us. Ask the Holy Spirit to guide you. Reflect on how your strengths show up in your relationships, your work, and your service. And then ask the Lord, how do you want me to use these gifts? Because when we align our strengths with God's plan, we don't just become more effective, we become more faithful. We become more free. And isn't that what vocation is all about? So, like I said, I had my daughter take the strengths assessment a few years ago. And I want to give an example of how this works. And I'm using her top 10. So there's core themes from these strengths: vision and strategy. She's futuristic, strategic, focused. So thrives on planning, innovation, and purpose-driven goals. This is part of her talents. Drive and excellence. She has competition, significance, and discipline. Motivated by achievement, recognition, and high standards. There's values and integrity. Her belief, consistency. That means she seeks alignment with personal convictions and fairness. Connectiveness and influence. Relator, connectedness, and builds deep relationships and sees the bigger picture of human impact. So this helps her figure out, where is the Lord calling me? She has these in her top 10. So majors that align with this, you can kind of Google this or do an AI search on this. And business administration or entrepreneurship. She wants to go into her own business. So she's strong in strategic thinking, competition, significance, shine in leadership and innovation roles. Political science or public policy may be good. Combines belief, significance, and futuristic vision to shape systems and advocate for change. Another career goal could be psychology or human development. Relator, connectiveness, thrives in understanding people and fostering growth. Another area where she is studying is communication or media studies. Strategic messaging, influence, relationship building are key here. So she kind of picked going on the communication entrepreneur track, which is really in line with what her natural talents are. Education or educational leadership, discipline, consistency, and belief support structured impact and legacy building. Theology or religious life would be good for her. Belief, futuristic, connectiveness, aligned with vocational discernment and ministry. She can go into health administration or public policy because she has strategic discipline and value-driven ideas for systematic change with human impact. Another thing is law or pre-law. So these are the things that you can look at. What are my God-given talents and where the Lord is calling me in my career? This is something definitely to take into prayer. It is 26 minutes past the hour. We got to take a break, and we come back with our first guest. Kelly Salomon will be with us. And we're back here in Catholic Connection. Vanessa Denhart-Garmo filling in for Teresa Tamio this morning. Joining us is returning guest of Catholic Connection. Kelly Salomon is with us, Vice President of Newman Guide Programs from the Cardinal Newman Society, talking with us about the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair and so much more. Kelly, always a pleasure to have you on.
Good morning, Vanessa. Great to be back with you.
So let's talk about the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair coming up and give us, of course, a background on the Cardinal Newman Society as well to kind of remind our listeners of the work that you do.
Sure. So, Vanessa, I know you and I have talked so many times about the Cardinal Newman Society and our work to promote and defend faithful Catholic education. We've been doing so for the last 30 years. our president and founder, Patrick Riley, has made great efforts in Catholic education to renew it and to stand for strong Catholic identity in education. Many families know us by the Newman Guide, which recommends faithful Catholic colleges. We also expanded the Newman Guide into K-12 schools and graduate programs in the last 2 years. So we're excited that our Newman Guide is growing. We added 3 colleges recently. We've added 25 K-12 schools, the first 25 in the Newman Guide. And we have added more than 50 graduate programs that are really integrating the Catholic faith into these particular graduate programs. So I encourage families to go to the Cardinal Newman Society's website to check out the full Newman Guide. And if you don't see your local Catholic K-12 school listed, please encourage the school to reach out to us, and we're happy to work with them through the process. Many times it's a great opportunity for schools to strengthen their Catholic identity even through the application process. And so that's a bit of the overview here today, Vanessa.
So what are some of the criteria, Kelly? Just remind people of the criteria that you look at as schools are put on the list.
Sure, that's a great question. So our expert educators and evaluators on staff have done years of researching exactly what the church has said about Catholic education, reading everything the popes have written, et cetera, et cetera. And we've put together our standards on what the church expects of Catholic education. And so we look closely at the school's curriculum. You know, are they integrating the faith in all of their subjects? And we also look closely at a school's policies. Do they uphold a strong Catholic identity in all of their policies, for example, in their handbooks, and everything from athletics to their literature policy to their facility use policy? And so we've learned that this is a way for a school to be faithfully Catholic in all it does. We've also worked closely with Alliance Defending Freedom and other legal teams that tell us that this is a great way for Catholic schools to protect themselves as well from any potential legal dispute, because a school is faithfully Catholic in everything it does if it has these strong Catholic policies in all areas. So, you know, we're looking at all aspects of a Catholic school, and it is a free application process for schools to work through and work with our educator evaluation team. And there are great benefits of joining the Newman Guide. You know, we are reaching more than 100,000 families online every year with the Newman Guide, and we are, you know, educating families about these great Catholic schools and colleges through our newsletters and our mailings and our social media, et cetera. Educators are also invited into our private Newman network, where they're able to collaborate with other school principals and other college leaders to collaborate and share best practices and strengthen their Catholic identity. So there's really great benefits for becoming Newman Guide recommended.
And, you know, how successful, Kelly, are people or parents who approach the colleges that are not in line with the teachings of the church but claim to be Catholic schools or use Catholic in their title, and share with them what the Newman Guide is all about? How successful are they in getting colleges to change their policies?
You know, schools, K-12 schools, have been very open and very eager to work with us overall to be, you know, to strengthen their Catholic identity. At the higher ed level, it's a little bit of a different story. You know, Catholic colleges have secularized for so many years, and we have more than 200 Catholic colleges in the country, and we can only recommend about 10% of them as model faithful Catholic colleges in the Newman Guide. There are several working with us behind the scenes, you know, to strengthen their Catholic identity. But unfortunately, there are many Catholic colleges that seem to want to keep up with their secular peers who are after, you know, secular success rather than fidelity in all that they do. You know, I talked with Teresa a couple weeks ago about the University of Scranton recently hiring a politician who has a pro-abortion voting record, right? And families are raising the alarm and asking, why is this being done? Right. But the latest I've heard is that there hasn't been any change in that decision. And so we see this all too often at our Catholic colleges, and that's why we want families to know about good, faithful options in the Newman Guide.
So tell us about the virtual tour coming up that people can participate in. What does this entail?
Yes. So this is a really exciting event for Catholic high school students and their parents to come to our Newman Guide Virtual College Fair. It's hosted for one day on October 9th, and that is the Feast of Cardinal Newman, so it's the perfect day for our college fair. And students, just by registering, will be able to learn so much about faithful Catholic colleges. So whether you're just beginning the college search process or you're in your senior year, come and visit and register for our Newman Guide Virtual College Fair. It's a free event. It's all online. The two main components of it are that you'll be able to visit the virtual booth of all of the colleges recommended in the Newman Guide. You'll be able to live chat and video call with representatives from these Newman Guide colleges live on that day. And we'll also have keynote speakers throughout the day that are really going to help students navigate the college search.
So what are some of the challenges, Kelly, and we're going to take a break in about 2 minutes, but some of the challenges, kids do face when they're trying to find the right college?
Even among the Newman Guides, the colleges are so different. There's different approaches to education, different charisms, different campus cultures. So the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair is a great starting point to learn about these differences and maybe narrow down which ones you want to visit in person.
Mm-hmm. And Kelly, is the virtual something parents and students can participate in?
Absolutely. Many parents have tuned in the past. Even some classrooms at Catholic schools have put on the virtual college fair live in their classrooms and had the whole class tuning in for some of our keynote sessions, which was really neat. We share information about scholarships throughout the day. We share information about different majors and activities and sports at Newman Guide colleges throughout the day. And, it's a free event. Even if you can't attend the sessions live, if you register for the event, you'll be able to get all of the recordings.
And like you said, you added new schools this year. That's very exciting. I want to get into the K through 12 as well after we come back from break. But, do you actively go after schools to get them to change policies so they could be added to the Newman Guide?
Yes, absolutely. We have educators reaching out to K-12 schools that we see that are doing great things with their strong Catholic identity, and we do reach out and invite them to apply. And we encourage our families and our members who follow us to tell their local Catholic school.
Great. We're talking with Kelly Salomon, Vice President of the Newman Guide Programs, about the Cardinal Newman Society. We'll continue our conversation with her. They have a Newman Guide Virtual College Fair coming up. We'll get details again after the break. Stay with us, everyone. And we're back. EWTN Radio Extra, Catholic Connection. Vanessa Denhagarmo filling in for Teresa Tamio. We've been speaking with Kelly Salomon here today, Vice President of Newman Guide Programs for the Cardinal Newman Society, about the virtual college fair. So tell us about, how we can register and give us an overview of the keynote speakers.
Sure. So it's very simple to register. You go to cardinalnewmansociety.org and you'll see information about the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair right there on our homepage. And the registration is actually pretty neat. When students fill out the registration for the college fair, they select, if they're interested in going to college in a certain area of the country, if they're interested in a certain major. And the system will automatically tell students, hey, you might be interested in these Newman Guide colleges because they fit the things you're looking for. So just by registering, you might get a leg up on the college search. And then please come to our college fair live on October 9th. Again, it's Cardinal Newman's feast day, very appropriate for us. And we'll have a live session in the daytime and a live session in the evening. So many homeschoolers will tune in during the daytime session. Many great Catholic schools will also turn it on in one of their classroom sessions for the whole classroom to participate. So from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, our first two keynote speakers are Rich Olan is a youth minister at a parish in Maryland, and he brings his youth group on several Newman Guide College visits in person every year. And he's committed to doing this because he's seen the great impact these colleges have had on graduates of those in his county in Maryland. So when he started doing this 11 years ago, he had 0 students from his county attending Newman Guide colleges. And now he's had dozens go off to Newman Guide colleges because he brings them on these campuses and they see the joyful atmosphere. They see the students attending daily mass together. They see these vibrant classes and they want to be a part of this Catholic culture, this Catholic education opportunity. So he'll be one of our speakers, Rich Olan, and the Newman Guide College Fair. And the other daytime session of the Newman Guide College Fair will be about athletics and activities at Newman Guide colleges. And this is in response to one of the questions we get all the time about if I want to play this sport or I want to do this major, this particular music or drama or activity, where should I go? And so we're hosting a whole session on that topic during the daytime session of the Newman Guide College Fair.
That's a great idea. Yeah, that, extracurricular activities like club sports. I know that was something my daughter was interested in golf, club golf. And so she was looking at that when she was looking at, that, and it's part of that college life, Kelly, that holistic college life, It's not just all about academics. You got to have, enjoy your time too.
Exactly. Students spend about 15 hours a week in classes. Hopefully they spend many more hours studying, but there's a lot of time outside of the classroom. And so what is it going to be filled up with? Hopefully you can find a good college where you'll, be able to experience a vibrant spiritual life, but also be able to pursue your gifts and talents in all these different areas, whether it's the club golf team or the drama club. And Newman Guide colleges have so many great opportunities in these regards. So we thought that would be a great session for the Newman Guide College Fair. We also have the evening session, which is, of course, is very popular with parents and students who get off of school and work and come to our evening session. And we will have a session from Dr. Dan Guernsey. He's on our staff here at Cardinal Newman Society. And he has sent his children to Newman Guide colleges. And so he'll speak from his personal experience and also from his role as an educator about the impact he's seen with Newman Guide colleges. And then finally, our last session of the day, Vanessa, if you haven't met him yet, you'll have to meet Father Jared Wolf. He's the chaplain for the athletics program at the University of Mary in North Dakota. I don't know if you have met him before, but he is wonderful, and he's a University of Mary graduate himself. And he will be talking to students about how they're created for mission, pulling from Cardinal Newman's famous, poem, I have a mission. I may not know it in this life, but I will know it, right? We're created for some definite service. And how does this play into the college decision? And again, he'll be able to speak from his personal experience because when he went off to the University of Mary, he admits he was really just going there to play on the football team. But some great teammates, really engage with him. He says on the first day they invited him to come play a board game down the hall. And then they said, oh, hey, we're going to Mass later on and you should come with us. And by the way, we're going to confession beforehand. So if you haven't been in a while, it might be a good chance to go. And he said that positive peer pressure, those positive influences around him made a great impact on his life. And not only did he grow deeper in his faith during his time at the University of Mary, but also discern his vocation to the priesthood. Wow. So we're blessed to have him joining our Newman Guide College Fair on October 9th.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Kelly, how often does the college campus aesthetics play a role? Like, does that come up in conversation of what a campus looks like and what they offer in terms of like maybe a gym or something like that?
Yes, certainly facilities come up. I know we've heard so many great things about the new chapels being built on many of these campuses. Christendom College just built their magnificent new chapel, and now Franciscan University just renovated their chapel on campus. And so certainly those things in the area of the country and all these things play a role in college choices. But we do try to help students, think about where's the place, what kind of person are they going to be at the end of 4 years at one of these institutions or another institution, right? Really think hard about, will I grow in virtue in this place? Will I grow in wisdom in these places? Think about the most important things. We can get distracted by a lot of different things, I think, in the college church. But Cardinal Newman Society, tries to help families take a look at some of the most important considerations and where a student is really going to thrive in all aspects of their life.
Kelly Salomon's here with us today. We're talking about the Newman Guide and the virtual event coming up that all can participate in. Let me ask you this, Kelly. Should people participate in the virtual college fair? Should it be a sophomore year, junior year, senior year, or does it really matter?
I think it just depends on that student of when it's going to be the right time for them. We see students, beginning as early as freshman year now, starting to keep an eye out in the college search. But then there's still students who are deciding their senior year. And so I think the Newman Guide College Fair really offers something for students who are at any point along their path. Maybe it will be chatting with an admissions representative that's really helpful to them, or maybe it's going to be learning about scholarship opportunities. Or maybe they really want to come to this session on our popular majors and activities at Newman Guide Colleges. I think there's really something for everyone. Oh, and Vanessa, I would have to mention that many Newman Guide colleges give out free swag, college merchandise at this event. So
cool.
Just by going into their booth, many of them mail out T-shirts and mugs and stickers and pens and all sorts of fun, drawstring backpacks and things like that. To students who visit their virtual booth. So lots of fun, really engaging event for students and parents to come to.
I love that. Who doesn't love getting a little swag, right? Kelly Salomon with us, Vice President of Newman Guide. Let's talk a little bit about K through 12 a little bit more. What prompted the Cardinal Newman Society to want to start including K through 12 schools, and how is that going?
Sure. So we've actually had an honor roll program that recognized K-12 schools for many years. And so that began our work with K-12 schools, and our educators developed policy standards on every aspect of Catholic education. So we have an entire policy standard document on literature and the arts, and an entire policy standard document on athletics. And then in 2023, it was the Cardinal Newman Society's 30th anniversary, and we thought, everyone knows us by the Newman Guide, and we have raised our standards with the Newman Guide because we have all of these policy standards now in place. And so why don't we invite K-12 schools to now be a part of the Newman Guide? And overwhelmingly, the response has been very positive that educators want to be under the Newman Guide umbrella. Catholic families, it seems to make a lot of sense for them that K-12 schools and graduate programs are in the Newman Guide. And we've also learned that, the standards are high. It takes some work for schools to work through the process. Many times they're missing policies or things that they need to put in place. But it's a great opportunity for them to strengthen that Catholic identity and then become Newman Guide recommended.
And so, I know you went over the criteria, but did you base the criteria on the already existing criteria that you had for the colleges? Did you tweak it differently for the K through 12?
Yes, it is very similar in that we're looking for those same, evidence of strong Catholic policies in all areas, and then also looking for the integration of the Catholic faith within the curriculum. At the college level, we are basing many of our application questions on Ex Corde Ecclesiae, which is written for Catholic colleges. And so in the K-12 application, we reference more of the church documents written for K-12 educators. But overall, I would say the criteria is right along the same lines. So we're looking for faithful Catholic curriculum and faithful Catholic policies in all that we do. When a Catholic school or college is hiring, we're looking that they're hiring for mission, that they have strong moral expectations in mind, because we know the witness of a teacher or a faculty member is so critical in providing that Catholic education that they're offering, right?
Yeah. That's so true. Kelly Salomon here with us. If we have principals or vice principals listening, and would you, if they reach out to you, will you guide them through the process to kind of evaluate their school and what they need to do to change to get to that level of being on the Cardinal Newman list?
Absolutely. Yes, we have contact information on our website. Go to cardinalnewmansociety.org, look under the Newman Guide section, and and we will be happy to work with any Catholic school across the country who wants to work with us to strengthen their Catholic identity and to become Newman Guide recommended. Vanessa is so grateful for your help in spreading the word about our work and the importance of faithful Catholic education.
So we have less than 2 minutes left with you here, Kelly. What else do you want to share with our listeners before we let you go?
So, again, come to our Newman Guide Virtual College Fair on October 9th. Feel free to stay in the loop with the Cardinal Newman Society. I think many listeners will be happy to know we're bringing back the print version of the Newman Guide later this fall, so I'll be sure to share more information on that when it's available.
Great. Kelly, thank you so much for being with us and, sharing with us Cardinal Newman Guide and this virtual college tour, this fair coming up. Again, give us those details so they can register.
Yes. Go to cardinalnewmansociety.org. You'll see right on our homepage information about where to click to register for the Newman Guide Virtual College Fair. It's a free event. It's for high school students and their parents. And there's a daytime and an evening session, so please feel free to register. We'll also send you the recordings of all of the talks if you register for the fair. So we look forward to welcoming many Catholic families on October 9th to this great event.
Kelly, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Vanessa. Take care and God bless.
Again, these are wonderful opportunities to do research and plan ahead as you're looking at colleges for either yourself or your students. That research is so important. So we're going to take a break here on Catholic Connection on EWTN Radio Extra, and we'll wrap up this program after the break. Don't go away. Wrapping up Catholic Connection here on EWTN Radio Extra. Vanessa Denha-Garmo filling in for Teresa Tomeo. T will be back in her host chair tomorrow. Wish her a happy birthday if you haven't already on her social media pages. And thank you to Kelly Salomon from the Newman Guide News being with us here today, sharing with us about the virtual college fair. You can find out all the information on their website. Register to attend at that college fair. And I just reminding you, coming up tomorrow on Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, Dr. Tom Neal, Chief of Evangelization and Mission Engagement, Diocese of Pensacola, Tallahassee, will be with Teresa tomorrow talking about the diocese, the hopeful mysteries of the Rosary. And it's a Wednesday, so that means Joan Lewis, Joan's Rome and Vatican News. An update from Joan Lewis will join Teresa tomorrow here on Catholic Connection on EWTN Radio Extra. And just reminding you, reflecting my coach's commentary, Called by Design, guided journal for strengths-based discernment. Really kind of discern where the Lord is calling you as you're figuring out your career path, especially for college students attending college and trying to figure out where the Lord is calling you. Look at your natural talents. What are you naturally good at? Write them down. Write down your top, 10 strengths. And for each one, answer various questions about where the Lord is calling you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Vanessa Denha-Garmo filling in for Teresa Tomeo. And I always remind my listeners to always be connecting, communicating, and collaborating with your Catholic community. God bless. Have a wonderful day.